Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Is this thing on? Hello everyone, and welcome back to Quarter-ish Life Crisis. I know what you're thinking. Sydney, you have failed us. You haven't been on in 2 weeks. Well, that I'm aware of. Let me explain what's been going on. First of all, my dogs might bark throughout this, so that's just a warning. I should have said that first. Rewind. Why haven't I recorded in 2 weeks? Well, that's because my life has changed again. I'm back in America, miserable. Just kidding. No, the last 2 weeks, I was packing up my stuff from London. I've lived there for 1.5 years, as I've mentioned in every statement I say. And I packed all my stuff and moved back, and of course I got sick. It wasn't COVID, I had to take a test, but I was sick moving, then it was Thanksgiving, and now I'm officially in Atlanta for the next month. So that's that. And today is really exciting because I'm recording with my sister because she's home until Tuesday. And I've been wanting to record this episode for a while. It was one of the first ideas I had. And honestly, what sparked wanting to record a podcast in the first place was have this kind of conversation, and it's something we've discussed a lot. I won't go into detail now because obviously I'll do the interview soon, but I also want to say that yesterday I watched the Ohio State versus Michigan game in a sports bar full of Michigan fans, and if your personality trait is saying go blue, I want you to stop listening. I'm kidding. If you support your team, like, that's awesome. I'm all for sportsmanship. In fact, one of my favorite activities to do when I lived in the UK was go to English football games. I support Man United because of my grandpa, and I had great fun at the games. But when you're a nasty fan and you're, you know what I mean. You know those men in particular, usually, who are just, shouting and get nasty and mean because their team's winning or losing. I just think it's weird because they didn't even go to that school probably, and they definitely didn't play on the sports team because they couldn't make it on. But I mean, that's just my rant because it was the most annoying afternoon of my entire life. Anyway, I'm gonna get Grace in here. Oh, there's my theme song playing. Gotta edit this. Anyway, time for the interview. Basically, today we'll be discussing the relationship of sisterhood in general. As we know, all relationships are complicated, but navigating through sisterhood specifically can be extra complicated because of how much you care, I think, or at least in our instance, we care for each other so much that the relationship just becomes a bit more elevated and a bit more, what's the right word? Can't find it, but you know what I mean. Older or younger doesn't really matter which end of the spectrum you fall on. It takes work to build a healthy and successful relationship that can get you through all the obstacles you're naturally gonna face, or in our case, some that weren't so natural. It was just situational in the fact that me and my sister grew up wanting to pursue the same thing, same dream, and it added an element of competition that we didn't purposely place into our relationship, but it got progressively more relevant, I think, as we got older and things started to get more serious as to how we were gonna go about pursuing our dream and making it a reality. There are my dogs barking. But anyway, today, yes, as I mentioned, is the first interview I'm doing on my podcast, and I'm glad it's my sister. We're used to singing duets, but I don't think we're used to talking together and having it recorded. So this is really exciting. And yeah, let's get started. Ready, Freddie? Mm-hmm. Oh, and also we tried to set up 2 microphones. We definitely have them. But we couldn't figure it out. So we're gonna be recording on this expensive microphone I bought. It's just one and it should work, but I might be sounding a bit distant, but I'll make sure it doesn't sound like shit. So anyway, here I am with my sister Grace. Hi, Grace.
Hello.
She's a bit nervous, don't really know why.
I'm not a great talker. I've always had trouble thinking before speaking, so this is new to me.
Yeah. Anyway, tell us how old you are, where you are right now, what your situation is. Yeah.
Okay, I am 18 years old. I moved to New York City in September, so I've been there for about 2 months now. Absolutely love it. My situation, so originally I was going to attend AMDA for musical theater. Things changed. I decided that that's not the path that I wanted to go down. School, at least right now for me, is not on the map, which is totally fine. So I'm considering this to be my gap year before next year. Obviously I grew up in Erie, Pennsylvania with Sydney.
I've never said that.
You've never said that?
Have I said that?
I think you did in your first.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, we grew up in Erie, and then we moved to Georgia summer of 2015.
Mm-hmm.
So I was 11, turning 12, and Sydney was
15.
15?
16.
Yeah. And now I live in New York, but we're both home for Thanksgiving.
'Tis the season to be merry. Well, that's my
name.
Anyway, what age did you start doing musical theater?
I actually started dancing before I did musical theater. So I started dancing when I was 3, and then throughout my younger years, our mom would take me to rehearsal, the shows that she was directing, and Sydney was in them, but I was too young to be in them. So I didn't do my first show until I was 4, but that was because our mom was the director and she could slide me in at a younger age. So I started doing musical theater when I was 4.
When did you start? At what age did you think, like, oh, this is something I want to do maybe as a career? Like, when did that? So basically, I guess the difference between you and I's journey in the beginning was my path was always pretty narrow. I felt like I wanted to do musical theater and that's all. I've mentioned that before.
Yeah.
Whereas you had like a million ideas. Like you wanted to be what?
Yeah, I
swim with dolphins.
I went through many different career aspirations, one of them being a marine biologist, but at the time I didn't know what that meant, meaning I didn't know there was actual science involved, so I just thought it was swimming with dolphins, but turns out that's a different career path. That's actual like dolphin training, which still, if I could swim, if I could totally swim, I would do that in a heartbeat. But yeah, that was one of the big ones that I talked about as a young person for a while. That when I got really involved in dance, it was being a ballerina. But I don't really like ballet, so that quickly changed. And you know, everyone wants to be the president at some point, and I grew up thinking that I liked Obama, and obviously I love Obama, but as a second grader, I was just liking Obama because
you loved Obama,
because our mom and dad loved Obama. So I have like actual poetry of me saying that I love Obama. So
yeah.
I've been an Obama supporter since
she loves Obama and hates her sisters, the poem.
I loved my Aunt Norma, I loved Obama, hated Sydney. But yeah, so I went through many different career aspirations, and I still don't really know what I want to do, but how can you as an 18-year-old or 22-year-old? But going back to your original question, when did I think musical theater should be a career?
Yeah.
I would say 9th grade is when I actually took it seriously, because that's the year I went to a performing arts high school. So I would say as a 15-year-old, I guess that's when I decided that maybe musical theater is what I should be doing. But I don't think I've ever been 110% sure that musical theater is what I want to do.
Yeah.
But I guess if I had to put a date on it, it would be 9th grade. Is when I took it more seriously.
Yeah. Would you say in 9th grade that's when things became a bit more competitive between us, or would you say the competition element that became relevant happened earlier? Would you say it was 9th grade or earlier?
Ooh. I would say earlier.
Okay.
Even though I didn't take it seriously, I'm a very competitive person, and I want to be the best in my field, whatever that may be. So, yeah, didn't know if I wanted to do this, but I do think there is competition between you and I at an earlier age, because we did both do dance, and we did go to the same studio.
It was funny because I think growing up, I like vividly remember people saying like, "Oh, like Grace is the dancer, like like movement and performing came so easy to you," and then like, "Oh, Sydney sings," and then like I think towards the end of like teenage journey, like it changed because I felt like I couldn't sing.
And you became like,
and I like worked,
one of the head dancers.
I worked hard to like be in the front of dances.
Yeah.
Still not a dancer, but like
you were.
But I tried. And then singing became like your voice matured like rapidly, and that became kind of your thing. And now you like hate dancing.
No, I did not enjoy singing until I guess I was told I could sing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's like I enjoyed
and that was 8th grade, 9th grade is when people were like, "Oh, she can't sing," because I had the worst pitch problems ever for years, actually.
Not ever.
No, like
some
it
people
was
can't sing.
Okay, but I, as someone who performs often, it was odd that I had so many pitch issues as a young girl. So yeah, I did start out as a dancer, and I did like Reflections, which was the big choreography thing, and that's how I was recognized as a choreographer at a young age. And dance I took more seriously than singing until 8th grade. Is when I think the switch happened for us, because at that point you were in high school and you were
dancing
center and dancing, and I was just singing.
Yeah. What are some things that being a younger sibling added to any anxiety or pressure you felt in general in MT? Like
in MT or just in general?
Both. Start with general younger sibling, normal sisterhood stuff without musical theater, and then the specific musical theater pressure and anxiety that you felt as a younger sibling.
So in general, being a younger sibling, you know, the stereotypical, you have to watch your older sibling go through everything first. And if you're anything like me, you want to be the person that does things first. You want to be the person that sets you apart from someone else. But I had to like sit and watch my sister do all these wonderful things before me, because A, I was too young, or, you know, B, I didn't want to step on my sister's toes. So as younger siblings, we have to watch maybe the things that we want to do get done first. So that created anxiety or competition, I guess. For MT, that meant you got to play older roles, or you got to be considered for a role that maybe I wanted to be first, just because age does play a big factor into any show that you do. So I guess that would be the main difference between in general and MT was age.
Yeah. What are some conversations you feel we've had? Like, I feel like we've had some pretty staple conversations in terms of when things got competitive. Can you like recall any of those and how like they've made our relationship a bit healthier, or what those conversations were about, or conversations we need to continue having to make sure like we're just supporting each other rather than competing?
We never really sat down and had a conversation about competition until last Christmas. last Christmas was a big
Bust.
and we had lots of changes were happening in the both of us. I was about to finish high school, and you were about to commit to changing your whole career, essentially. Yeah. So last Christmas, our conversation, I'm going to talk about Dear Evan Hansen and that situation. Yeah. So the show of Dear Evan Hansen obviously has like one young girl that at this point in our lives, although I am younger than my sister, as an 18-year-old, we are now up for the same roles. So I can walk into an audition room with 30-year-olds and be considered because I am 18 now. So before any of this, when I was 17, it wasn't even in question that Sydney and I would be going for the same role. But the second I turned 18, things open up. So,
and I think in terms of looks, we look. In fact, some people think you look older than I do. Mm-hmm. I've looked the same for a while, and you look mature for your age. So we kind of almost look the same age in my head now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just never considered going after the same roles because of our voices.
Literally, it's voice types. Like in terms of voice types,
Sydney would be the ingenue,
soprano. Put me in like throwback or even like Sondheim, like musical things, whereas Grace sings more pop rock, contemporary. So we've never, in terms of roles, and
we've never fought. So it was almost a blessing growing up that we never went after the same role.
We never went after the same role. This might be backtracking, but the only competition that I guess came in, like you said, in 9th grade, I had left school and I felt like I worked my ass off just to be like remotely seen and noticed. Even though I had so much privilege in high school, I still felt like I was working my ass off just to be like one of the 4 dancers. And then obviously like you coming in had a lot of hype around you already because you had been seen performing around here. People already knew who you were.
Because of you.
I was stopped in my rehearsals to talk about you.
Yes.
So it's just like that element of competition came in, but it wasn't specific roles. So yeah. So back to Dear Evan Hansen, we're past high school, we're past all that.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Sydney had just finished a musical theater intensive for 3 months and got to work with all these professionals, and one of the roles that they talked about Sydney being able to possibly play at the moment was Zoe in Dear Evan Hansen, and that became something on Sydney's radar moving forward. And when she came back for the holidays, she obviously told the family about it. Little did she know that my manager was also trying to get
me.
But
I knew that.
You knew that.
I knew that because you had been auditioning for it for a while. Yeah. Moving forward.
For 3 years.
So I already felt, when I'd never heard anyone say like you can go play a contemporary role, it wasn't on my mind. I know I look like a bunch of the Zoes out there. That was in my mind. And I know it's not a very difficult role to sing.
No.
It's not. So with work, I think, oh yeah, maybe this is achievable. But I remember like the first thought I had was like, oh shit, my sister sings this song. Like I remember with my voice teacher when I was in London, I was like, oh god, like my sister sings this. And she's like, well, you can sing it too. And it's just like an awkward place to be because, well, are we both gonna be going up for this role? Even on like different sides of like the pond, like, yeah, we can audition anywhere. Like you can audition to be in London, I can audition to be in New York, tour, like all those things. Yeah.
So this is the first professional scenario that we were, I don't want to say put up against each other, but we were, because when you're home for the holidays, these are the things you talk about. It's your, things you've accomplished and your goals. And that was now one of Sydney's
At the time, yeah, it was one of my goals.
One of your goals.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna get into specifics about like what happened.
Intro's playing. Hold on.
So yes, that was one of Sydney's goals now, and I'd be lying if I said it didn't bother me, because I've now spent years auditioning for this role, and you know, I don't have a lot of friends in this industry because of competition. So now there's competition with my sister, like serious competition. It's different. It's different when you're both in high school or in middle school. It's not as serious, but we're both in the real world now, and there was a good possibility that one of us could get the role, and then what would we be left with? We'd have to go like see each other on Broadway. Like, that's sad. It's hard to bring competition into family.
It's a weird place
to be in.
Yeah.
Especially when it's Christmas and you just want to get along, and all you can think about is, you know, am I as good as her, or
is she gonna get it first? Like, who's gonna be there first? And like, is that gonna knock down my confidence? And it's a weird place to be in, because I guess, yeah, in terms of last year when this became a huge blow up and it had to be a huge conversation, like, yeah, I was in a place, I mean, I think now, if I'm being completely honest with myself, like, musical theater isn't, it's not on my mind as much as it was. Like, I'm happy to be doing other things and see where whatever path takes me. Like, it's not, I have to be on Broadway or I'm gonna die, but it would still sting, I think, on either end to see, like, oh, I think the initial reaction I would want to be like, oh, this is amazing, full support, but I think the initial reaction, just not intentionally, would be like, oh,
shoot,
damn, it wasn't me. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then after that, I feel like it's 100% support. Like, I feel like now, a year later, my reaction would be much better than it would be a year ago, but that's because we had to, like, work through some stuff, and like,
there was a lot of growth from last Christmas to this holiday season.
Yeah, even the fact that we can sit down and kind of, like, even say the word musical theater, or like honestly, the term brings anxiety. Like, I'm not kidding.
Us, yeah.
It brings anxiety still to this day, but I think the fact that we can sit down and be like, okay, yeah, I'm feeling this way, and like, there's nothing I can do about it, but know that there is 100% support and love, and like, obviously, yeah, I'm gonna be there backstage if like Grace is on stage, and I would want her to be backstage with me, or opening night, all those things. But I think it's just like a normal, uncontrollable, sisters that aren't even in musical theater end up competing with each other, whether it be looks, who gets married first, who buys a house first, whose job is making more money, whose parents, you know, are you the favorite? Am I the favorite?
I don't know if that happens with brother and sister, or brother and brother. I don't know.
I mean, we've seen brother and brother situations of money, mostly.
Money, yeah.
But I mean, girls
are more,
when society, we're compared to each other every day. Like, social media, like, oh, weighing this much is bad and you have to lose. I lost 20 pounds and now I look good. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, we live in a world where girls are just pinned up against each other all the time. And when you make it blood, it's
blood, and then now you add, you're doing the same thing.
Same dream.
It becomes hard to talk about, and it didn't come out until we started screaming at each other, quite honestly.
You just have to.
I think you have to. It's not something you can't not talk about.
Yeah, like
you have to talk about it in order for both parties to feel better about moving forward. And I will say, after that conversation last Christmas, again, like you said, obviously the first initial reaction is, oh, it should have been me.
Oh, I'm better.
But it quickly fades into love and support.
Yeah, but imagine, like, let's say, next month you book something and you're on the road and it's amazing, but we didn't have this conversation a year ago,
where would
we be? What would our relationship be like? Would we even feel comfortable? Like, could I make the phone call to tell you? Could you tell me? You know what I mean? So yeah, it was just like a conversation we had to have, and I think we still have. And I think it's a bit easier now because on both of our ends, or at least I can speak for myself, musical, like, I think it pains people to hear it in my family, but...
No, but in a way, how I've maintained, like, a healthy mindset about parts and whatnot is because I've always had something else.
Yeah.
Musical theater was your life for...
since I was 5.
And that wasn't the case for me really at all. So I always had something to fall back on. So maybe my feeling towards not getting a part or competition was probably a little less than yours because I had something else.
Yeah.
Whereas you didn't have something else
I had nothing else.
This year.
Yeah, I know. It was like, if I don't do this, I might as well just die.
I never felt that way.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's not even I didn't feel like, oh, if I don't do this, I should die because I loved it. It was because I felt like I couldn't do anything else. Like, because I'd only done one thing my whole life.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I think in terms of, like, us having different lanes now that we can go down and other, in terms of, like, even just, like, a social life and creating your own life that has nothing to do with any sort of work, like, having a life and then also having a goal to work towards in career world, like separating the two is important. And I think as long as you have at least 2 different worlds going on, like, you won't be miserable, or at least I feel like this can't eat me alive. Like, a competition between me and my sister, like, it's just really not worth it.
Definitely.
Like,
and that was the big realization.
Yeah, this is
last
not
year.
worth it. Like,
it wasn't worth that big blow up. Like, a part.
It's singing and dancing.
No, like, neither. Just so we're clear, neither of us got the part. Neither of us have been on Broadway, tour, nothing. So
just so we're clear, we're unemployed.
So technically, we argued really over.
It did feel as though, like, oh, I could get this part tomorrow.
Yeah, but that's not what happened. So.
But if it did happen today, like,
we would be in a much better
headspace because of conversations and honesty of not being like, yeah, it's fine. Like, no, it's not fine, and, like, I'm mad and I feel bad about myself. Like, that just needs to be said.
No, like, even like your cruise audition, like, I was like, shoot, I'm not auditioning for cruises right now.
Yeah, and like, you do self-tapes all the time, and I'm like, what am I doing?
But then I was like, oh, well.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't really matter because we have other things to fall back on now. So.
Yeah, lives. Anyway, whew. Do you think going hard? Just had a stroke. Reverse. Do you think going forward it'll just get easier? Like, do you think we're moving in a good direction? Do you think, like, there's a blow up to come?
I do not think there's a blow up to come.
Yeah.
At least not from the 2 of us. In terms of our other family, maybe. But between you and I, no. We had maybe some irritation this week just about you coming to New York, and
that's in terms of I say normal people as though musical theater people aren't normal. I mean it.
They aren't. They're not normal. No, but New York is completely separate from MT. That's just being sisters living in the same place again. We haven't lived in the same place since you were in high school. So it's going to be odd, but also great because now I'm older and I do get to go out and do things that you get to do. So there is that new level of socialization that we didn't get when I was still, 16 and you wanted to go out, and we were afraid to go out because I'm a baby.
Fake ID.
But I still have a fake ID.
I still have a fake ID.
Please
tell me.
Find me. No, but there's we're going in the right direction in terms of our age. Although we are 4 years apart, it's starting to line up a little more.
I agree. Any advice to siblings wanting to pursue the same career and or just normal struggles? Like any advice?
My best advice for any relationship, whether that be friendship, sisterhood, brotherhood,
of man,
would just be, communication. Everything falls back on being able to talk, and talk in a healthy structure, meaning let each party talk and actually listen. And if you're confused about something, you ask a question politely. Nothing good comes out of screaming over each other. Maybe that has to happen a couple times, but if you can go back to having a civil conversation about what's wrong, then you are golden.
Perfect. Well, thanks for coming on my podcast.
Thanks for having me. So I have a YouTube channel, and I vlogged this podcast episode. So if you want to see like the actual faces behind the audio, you just you just YouTube.
Just go to Google
Grace Rudd, and you'll see the podcast episode later this week.
Fun. Thanks, Grace.
Thanks so much.
Once again, if you are a Michigan fan and your personality trait is saying go blue,
do not
listen. Happy week, happy holidays. 'Tis the season to be merry, merry, merry. Jerry, Jerry, Jerry. Goodbye, everyone.